Hello. Today we're going to be doing a presentation on food safety during cancer treatment. My name is Sandra Acevedo. I'm the community dietitian that works with the Riverside Community Health Foundation and also with the Pink Ribbon Place. I have done other presentations for the Pink Ribbon Place before. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information about me. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, meaning that I went to school to become a registered dietitian, meaning that I took classes in nutrition that I had to take, and also to take the test to become a registered dietitian. And I'm mentioning this because a lot of times you can hear nutrition information from people without them being registered dietitian or nutritionist, because the term nutritionist can be used for someone by someone who's never had any studies in nutrition. It's not separated just for people that have had their certification or their degrees in nutrition. So, to be a registered dietitian, you need at least a 4-year degree in nutrition with the classes that prepare you to take the RD exam. I have my undergraduate degree from UC Riverside in biochemistry, and I received my master's in public health nutrition from Loma Linda University. I've been working as a registered dietitian for 10 years, and most of my focus throughout my career has been related to chronic conditions like diabetes and cancer. In undergrad and in my master's, I took classes that have to do a lot with what we're talking about today, food safety. In undergrad in biochemistry, I took a microbiology course, and in my master's class, I took a food science course where we talked about food safety. So this topic, I've covered it before, I've learned about it, but it's good to come back to it and also um, once again mention it for people who might be at risk for a foodborne illness. Okay, so we're going to talk about what that is right now too. So the objectives of this presentation, what we're trying to get out of it, are to know the different times and places where we can acquire a foodborne illness. So be aware of where we can do something differently that can increase our chances of getting a foodborne illness or bringing one home. As you can see in this presentation, when I zoom out again, you're going to see that the background is a map. And I chose a map. It's actually a map of the United States, but I wanted to put a map there because I wanted you guys to think that there's different locations we can be at where the way we behave can either improve or reduce our chances of us developing a foodborne illness there, or from there, or bringing one home. So that's why we're covering it in this way of talking about the different places, how we should be, what steps we should follow to reduce our chances of bringing home or developing a foodborne illness because of something we do differently. So the second objective is going to be understand proper techniques to handle food to avoid food contamination in these different locations, and also know the main groups of people that are at risk for foodborne illness. So I know this presentation is for survivors of cancer. It's for the cancer support group, but also there's other groups of people that can be at risk too. So we'll talk about that. So first of all, we're going to talk about why it's important, some of the other information also in there, the groups of people that we are trying to also protect. We're going to talk about how to behave in a grocery store. What are the best steps to follow there to reduce our chances? How to transport groceries? What to do at home? Home is going to be more detail. And then so other important points that we want to mention today too that have to do with how to reduce our chances of developing our foodborne illness, our risk of foodborne illness, and then finally summarize a little bit of what we've learned throughout the presentation. So why is this theme important? Food safety is important for all people, but especially during and after cancer treatment. So what happens during cancer treatment that can put us at risk? Cancer and its treatment can weaken the immune system. This makes it harder for your body to protect itself from a foodborne illness. During chemotherapy, your immune system can be weaker at certain times. So you want to ask your doctor, I know I'm getting this type of treatment. Will this affect my immune system? Do I need to be more careful than normal? Make sure you ask. You want to know that, especially when there's times of your treatment where you could have a higher risk. Say your white blood cell counts are lower during that time. So make sure that you talk to your doctor about that so that you're aware. Cancer can also weaken your immune system over time because it's a chronic condition. It can last a long time. And in the same way, other chronic conditions, say like diabetes, can also reduce the strength of your immune system. Foodborne illness is caused by eating food that's contaminated with harmful bacteria, parasites, or viruses. And it's important to be aware that if your immune system isn't compromised, sometimes you can have bacteria, parasites, or viruses in certain foods, and you might not even have a symptom because your immune system can fight it off. But if you are dealing with a situation where it's a little bit more compromised, then these same bacteria can make you very sick. So that's why we're covering this today. And then who else is at risk? We mentioned a little bit about this earlier. Who else has this high risk? People, so anyone can get food poisoning, but there are groups of people more likely to get sick since their immune system is not working at their best. Other high risk groups would be people that are 65 years of age and older, children under the age of 5 or younger, pregnant women, individuals with a weakened immune system. So we mentioned that people going through cancer treatment, organ transplants because they take medications that makes their immune system not as strong, so they can accept the new organ. People dealing with a chronic condition like HIV would be a chronic condition actually right now, but also diabetes, liver issues, or kidney issues. But HIV is also mentioned there. Okay, so these are other groups of people that are high risk. So we want to think about when we're paying attention to food safety in the way that we either buy food, travel with food, or cook our food. Do we have anybody at home that has this risk too? Is it just us, or is there someone else I need to be careful about too? Careful for too. So we're gonna move on first to the grocery store and learn what are the steps we want to take there to be safe. So we're here. We're gonna give you guys a couple of techniques that can help us be shop smart while at the grocery store. You don't want to buy from unclean areas. You want to avoid bruised or damaged fruits and vegetables. Avoid cans with cracks or dents or bulges. And make sure food is not past its sell by date. So for me, sometimes I look at the clearance section and I see that they're selling food cheaper. You want to always pay attention to the sell by date in those areas because they might be selling it cheaper for that reason. The other thing you want to be careful with is it's not mentioned here, but I always check my eggs. I check my carton of eggs. I open my eggs and I check that there isn't an egg in there that's cracked because I don't want to go home with a cracked egg. And plus, we don't know what else it could have been spread to too. So check your fruits and vegetables the same way. I've come home with bad things, and I wish I would have looked at it more because it is work to have to go back to the store and also change, especially now when we're more exposed to the coronavirus by having to go back to the store. Other tips are to place raw meat, poultry, or seafood in a plastic bag before you set it in your shopping cart. So they give you those bags usually when you're like at the butcher's. There's a bag right there. Also, don't place this raw meat, fish, or poultry in the area where you would sit a child because it could still leak to the food under. Buy only pasteurized milk, cheese, and other dairy products. Pasteurization, what it does, it brings up the temperature of the food to kill the bacteria without losing its quality. And purchase refrigerated eggs. If you're not going to use raw eggs, then make sure you find pasteurized eggs. Now, this comes to mind because I think I always buy refrigerated eggs. That's how I find them at the store. But during this pandemic, during the time when there wasn't enough toilet paper, eggs, milk, I ended up buying some eggs from a farm, and they didn't have them refrigerated when I went to pick them up. They were just outside, and they were like in their little post outside. So just to be aware, when things change, sometimes we have to still be cautious of making sure if we are at risk to buy eggs that are refrigerated. Next place we're talking about is what do we do when we transport groceries home? So what's the best way that we can avoid bringing home a foodborne illness? So what are some tips? Pick up food that can spoil at the end of your shopping trip. So that's important. Sometimes I go shopping with my husband. We're like, okay, let's go get the groceries. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got to run this errand and this other errand and take care of this. And it's easy for us to forget that we actually have this food in there. So it's just be very focused about we're doing the shopping last because we don't want the car, especially here how hot it gets, with this food in there going bad. Refrigerate within 2 hours of cooking or purchasing the food. So 2 hours, but then right under it says if it's higher than 90 degrees, which happens here in Riverside, refrigerate within 1 hour. Especially in the summer, be more cautious about this. Another good option you could do is having a cooler in the trunk to keep your food that's meant to be cold for a little bit longer. Our next step is going to be at home. So you can see us here traveling home. What are the steps we want to follow at home? So foodborne pathogens are sneaky. They can appear completely fine. Your food can appear completely fine, but actually may contain pathogens that can make you sick. It's important that you're always careful with handling food and during the preparation process, especially if you're making food for other people. And the easiest way to be careful is to follow the 4 basic steps to food safety, which is what we have here: is clean, separate, cook, and chill. So with clean, we want to think about how do we keep our areas clean. You want to clean before, during, and after preparing food. So being cautious about always cleaning while you're making food. Wash your hands with soapy water for 20 seconds. That's a birthday song. So if you sing the birthday song, you're washing it for 20 seconds. Also, wash between your fingers, behind your arms. Check your nails. If you have long nails, it's going to be more likely that you can harbor bacteria in there and it could be transferred to the food. So if you're cooking for other people, the best thing is to have shorter nails. Wash all work surfaces between preparation of raw meat, poultry, or seafood. So consistently wash. You want to sanitize a cutting board. You want to use about 1 tablespoon of bleach to a gallon of water, or you can put the cutting board into the washer at really hot temperature, and that would help to sanitize it. Okay, so use paper towels to clean up surfaces or clean kitchen towels. This is important. It's actually what's recommended is that you wash your kitchen towels every day. So maybe having a lot for every day would be great. Maybe you wash them once a week and you grab all of them, the ones that are dirty. Or if you switch them, maybe a little bit longer, could be 2, 3 days, but also being careful about what you're using them for. Rinse all produce under running water for 30 seconds, even those with skin you plan to remove. So you might wonder why. I'm not going to eat the skin of a lemon. I don't need to wash it. Yes, you do, because once you cut it, you could be taking the contaminant from outside the lemon to the inside if you haven't washed that lemon. So you also want to rinse your cantaloupe, your watermelon. You want to rinse your onions, your lettuce. You want to rinse your cabbage. And with those that have the outer leaves outside, you want to rinse it, remove those leaves anyways, rinse the new leaves too. You're not going to be eating the outside leaves. And what I tend to do with all these three things, cabbage, lettuce, and onions, I rinse the outside, I remove the leaves, then I cut it up, and then I rinse it again, like with a little, the word just disappeared on me, like a filter. It's not the right word I'm using, but to make sure that I'm washing the cutting vegetable. I rinse that anyways, like a vegetable wash basket, pretty much. Do not rinse raw meat or poultry or eggs on your sink because it will make the bacteria splash into your counters. So the way we protect ourselves from this is we cook that so that we make sure that the raw meat, poultry, or eggs don't have any bacteria. But do not rinse those things in the counter because then you could leave bacteria in your counters. Clean top of cans before opening. Why is this important? I used to work at a microbiology lab before going for my master's in public health and nutrition. And I remember talking to the lady that was doing the test there, and she would mention how very often foods that came from other countries would have remains of rodents in the food, and sometimes outside the cans, very often outside the cans. So please always wash your cans. So that is clean. Our next one is going to be separate. So here we're looking at separating, making sure we separate food right so we're not increasing the risk of cross-contamination. Continue to keep meat, poultry, and seafood separated as we talked about in the grocery store, in the cart. Same thing in the refrigerator. Keep it separated from what is fresh or ready to eat, and fruits and vegetables too. So most of the time we tell people keep it at the bottom part of the refrigerator. Just make sure it's not going to leak into anything under. My bottom storage in my refrigerator is right on top of where I put my vegetables. So I always make sure I have something that's close. Even with the plates I use, I'm careful because I don't want them to just dip to the side and all of a sudden something falls. So never put cooked food back in an unwashed plate that held raw meat, poultry, seafood, or eggs. This can be tempting. I've had it be tempting for me because I wash so much all day that I'm like, oh, I'll wash an extra plate. But when I make eggs in the morning, I scramble them. I go ahead and mix them before on a bowl, and then I put them on the pan. I get tempted to put it back in the same bowl, but I don't because I know it's risky. So making sure you use a new one. If you put something raw, don't put something cooked in there. Don't reuse marinades used on raw food unless they are boiled first. Consider using cutting boards for ready-to-eat foods and another one separate for the ones that are uncooked. And this is also important. We do a lot of, sometimes in the summer, not as much this time, but we used to do a lot of grilling. And I always made sure that my husband would take the meat or the chicken or whatever he was going to grill in one container and then make sure that it came back in another container because I didn't want him putting it back where the raw food was at. Wash all items used to prepare raw food before using for other foods or cooked meat. So making sure you're always washing, especially before using it to make raw food, and don't use the same one where you put something raw to use for some like raw meat or raw poultry or raw eggs where you're going to put something that's cooked. So avoiding that. Next is going to be our more detailed one, which is cook. So what do we need to pay attention to at home when we're thinking about cooking? First of all, You want to always, don't, with meat, you don't want to just assume, okay, it's the right color, it's done. You want to use a food thermometer. And you want to put that food thermometer in the middle of the thickest part of the food to test if the food is done. So making sure you use a thermometer versus just going by the color. Cook meat until it's no longer pink and the juices run clear. Do not rely on the color of the meat to decide if it's fully cooked or not, as I mentioned. Um, Whole ground meats and mixed dishes should reach a safe internal temperature. So you want to go with the temperature that's right in the middle. That's the temperature we're going to be checking for. We're going to be learning what those safe temperatures, internal temperatures are. The main thing you're doing with all of this that we're talking about, all these steps, is you're avoiding the danger zone. The danger zone is the most likely temperatures where bacteria can thrive. So that's between 40 and 140 degrees. So some bacteria can make it under 40 degrees, and some can actually make it under over 140, although it's not very common. The more common ones are the ones under 40. But most bacteria can't. The one where they thrive and they grow more are between the temperatures of 40 and 140. So we want your refrigerator to stay at under 140. And we want, when we cook something, to make it at least to 140 to make sure that there's no bacteria or contaminants or viruses or pathogens there. With regards to eggs, you want to cook eggs until the yolk and the white are both firm and not runny. Avoid recipes that ask for uncooked eggs or such as many cream desserts, raw cookie dough, or cake batter. Use only recipes in which the eggs are cooked or heated to 160 degrees. Bring soups, sauces, and gravy to a boil when reheating. Heat other leftovers to 165. And for fully cooked ham, you want to reach 165. With hot dogs, lunch meat, bologna, and other deli meats, you want to get them to steaming hot or 165 degrees. So I remember when I would eat lunch meats when I was pregnant, I would make sure to heat it up in the pan for a little bit or even put it in the microwave for a little bit to make sure that they were at that steaming hot. They would look steaming hot before I would eat them. Okay, where are we at? Right here. Seafood. So for seafood, you want to reach 145 degrees. You're going to see these temperatures again, so don't worry about that. You want to cook shrimp, lobster, and crab until they turn red and the flesh is pearly and opaque. Cook clams, mussels, and oysters until the shells are open. If the shells do not open, do not eat the seafood inside. Cook all raw beef, lamb, pork, veal, steaks, roast, and chops to 145 degrees within a 3-minute rest times after removal from the heat source. So get to 145 degrees, remove the food from the heat source, and check the temperature again after those 3 minutes just to make sure. Let me see. Next one is microwave cooking. Microwave, it doesn't always have the most even type of cooking or reheating, so that's why we're going to be careful with how we deal with food when it's in the microwave. You want to rotate the dish if there's no turntable in the microwave. If it's not rotating, you want to rotate it one quarter of a way each time to prevent cold spots, because cold spot in a microwave waveable food right in the middle, say, could be harboring bacteria, and the temperature might not be getting to it. Use a lid or vented plastic to thoroughly heat leftovers and stir often during reheating. Okay, and finally, allow standing time, which completes the cooking before checking the internal temperature. Food is done when it reaches the USDA, FDA recommended say minimum internal temperature. So we'll cover those right now, what those temperatures are. Finally, chilling your food. How do we chill our foods? You want cold temperatures. When you were aware that cold temperatures slow the growth of harmful bacteria. So keeping a refrigerator temperature of 40 or below is going to be the most effective way to reduce risk of a foodborne illness. So making sure a refrigerator works good is good. You can get an appliance thermometer to make sure it's actually at 40 or below. To chill foods properly, you want to refrigerate or freeze perishable within 2 hours of cooking or purchasing. We mentioned this earlier when we're bringing food home from the market. No more than 2 hours, but if it's hotter than 90 degrees outside, within 1 hour you want to get them in the refrigerator. Or if they've been cooked and you're out in a picnic, try to get them in a cold cooler quickly. There's new coolers now. Maybe they're not new. I wasn't aware that they had some that lasted longer with the ice. That's a good option to have if you're going to be out eating outside. Never thaw food at room temperature. It is safe to thaw food in the refrigerator, in cold water, or in the microwave. But if you're going to thaw food in cold water or microwave, you want to cook it immediately. In the refrigerator, you're okay. It gives you a little bit of time. Use shallow containers for quicker cooling in the refrigerator. Why shallow containers? Because when you have food that's in a shallow container, there's more food exposed to cold air. There's more surface area exposed to the cold air, so the food's going to cool quicker. If you use a non-shallow container, more of a deep container, say like for a soup, like a pot of soup, you put it in the refrigerator, think, oh, I'm fine, there's no risk. The middle of that soup could maybe take a longer time to actually reach a colder temperature, and you could actually be harboring bacteria right in the middle. And then you want to, if you're not sure about, um, oh wait, last thing, store raw meat on bottom of shelf away. I think I mentioned that already too. Just make sure it doesn't drip into other things. If you're not sure how long food will last in your refrigerator, you have options to go online and look under the USDA, FDA cold storage chart that they have. Or also, I use this page called the Still Tasty on www.stilltasty.com to figure out recommended storage time. And this comes from the FDA, the USDA, and the CDC, the information they have. The other thing I do, I talk to Alexa a lot. I have Alexa at home. Or if you have any of these smart appliances that can talk back to you, ask them and they're going to go back to what the USDA, many times they're going to go back to what the USDA is recommending. So just if you're on a, like trying to decide quickly, that could be an option. But I do recommend the website Still Tasty because it's pretty easy to look at it. Here we have a chart where it shows us different foods, how long they last. We have ground beef, turkey, veal, 1 to 2 days in the refrigerator. Stew meats, 1 to 2 days. Chicken and turkeys, also 1 to 2 days. And fresh fish and shellfish, 1 to 2 days. 7 days is bacon, breakfast patties, ham, hot dogs, open packages, and also eggs that are hard cooked. Cooked egg dishes are 3 to 4 days. So are soups and stews. Store cooked dinners, 3 to 4 days. Salads made at the store, like egg, chicken, tuna, macaroni salads, those are 3 to 5 days. And lunch meats that are open 3 to 5 days. So these are hard to remember. If you're not sure, I just tell people stick to the slowest days, 1 or 2 days, and don't risk it. But if you can, research it, because I hate throwing away food. Research it and be like, okay, let me see how long this is gonna last. And if you're aware before you put it in bag, maybe you have a plastic container that it's going into. Go ahead and write the day so you're aware. Okay, so those are the steps we're gonna follow when we chill our food to reduce our risk of foodborne illness. Now we're gonna talk about some other important points that have to do with food sanitation and to reduce our risk. So what temperature does your food need to reach in order for you to know it's safe? We'll cover those. We'll cover also some risky and less risky foods to be aware of. And how does coronavirus affect us right now when we're talking about food sanitations? With regards to temperatures to remember, for beef, pork, veal, lamb, steaks, roast, and chops, all red meats, 145 with a 3-minute rest time is what we're looking for. 145, checking the middle of the meat, it's important. Everything you see here is always in the middle. Fish is 145 too. Beef, pork, veal, lamb, ground. When it's ground, anything that's ground, you're going to go a little bit higher to 160. Egg dishes, mixtures, 160. And then your birds, turkey, chicken, duck, whole pieces, or ground, 165. So those are the highest. So to reduce our risk, we want to make sure that this is the temperature we're going to reach to know that food is fully cooked. Our next thing is risky foods. What are we avoiding? We've been talking about these, so they're going to be more common sense right now. We want to avoid raw, undercooked meat, poultry, or seafood, but we're okay eating meat, poultry, or seafood that is cooked to a safe internal temperature. Unpasteurized or raw milk. Most of the milk you find at the stores are pasteurized, but you can also see it. Usually it says that in the containers that it's pasteurized. Raw or undercooked eggs. I like my eggs a little sunny side up, a little not fully runny, but a little bit of it. But if I'm at risk, I'm not gonna take a chance. So you want them fully cooked eggs with a firm yolk and the white part to also be firm. Avoid unwashed fresh produce, making sure we were washing our fresh or cooked produce too. A soft cheeses made from unpasteurized raw milk. This tends to happen more in farms sometimes, not always, but you're gonna find that when it's being sold not through grocery stores, there's a higher chance that it's not being unpasteurized. But when it's through the grocery stores, I don't think the chances are that high that it's you're buying pasteurized cheese, that you're buying unpasteurized cheeses or milk. I know that one of the cheeses that they tell people to be careful with is feta cheese, but if you go to the store, you're gonna see that on the container they have pasteurized feta cheese. So hard cheeses or soft cheese made from pasteurized milk are okay. They're safe to eat. Cold hot dogs, deli meat. You want to reheat these hot dogs or deli meat to a steaming hot of 100 or going over 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Raw sprouts. So sometimes in sandwiches, I don't know if you tried them. I've had them in sandwiches before where we put some raw sprouts. You avoid those when you're trying to be more cautious about your food safety skills, pretty much. Avoiding a foodborne illness. So you want them cooked. So those are the foods that are going to be important for us. Coronavirus. What do we know about the coronavirus? So the coronavirus is thought to spread like a respiratory infection, like the common cold through air droplets. So a person that's coughing, sneezing, that's infected could actually be spreading the virus. We are also aware that some people don't show symptoms, so that's important to know. They could have it and have no symptoms. Data is showing that it's not likely to be transferred through food, so it's not a foodborne illness like what we've been talking about here. That's what data is showing, although they don't have everything yet. And it's also believed it doesn't last too long on surfaces. So what do we know with regards to surfaces? If it's like a hard surface, um, like steel or plastic, it could last up to 3 days. If it's a porous surface, say like a paper bag, a cardboard, it can last up to 24 hours. That's what we're aware of. So there is the possibility of you touching a surface or an object that has the virus on it and then touching your mouth, your nose, or your eyes, and then maybe spreading it this way to getting it yourself or spreading it somewhere else. But these types of transfers are not what we're seeing most often in as the main transfer. It's mostly being seen as kind of like a cold, the way that colds are being transferred. Um, so you're okay ordering food out. You're okay going grocery shopping. Just make sure you wash your hands. Wash your foods before you eat them. Reach those safe internal temperatures. Be very cautious. Obviously, go when you go outside. Use your mask. Clean your hands with sanitizer. Take all the extra steps so that you can still do these things that we used to do before without feeling that we're gonna get sick. So those are some recommendations I have with regards to that. Um, Next thing we're going to talk about, we're going to summarize a little bit of what we want you guys taking home from here, from this presentation. First thing, if you have food and you're doubtful about if it's good or not, throw it out. Don't taste it. Don't just smell it and be like it's okay. Just throw it out. It's not worth it. If you can't remember how long food will last in the refrigerator, I encourage you guys to look at www.stilltasty.com. It'll tell you right away. Also, the USDA and FDA websites will have this information. Be extra cautious when you're going through chemotherapy treatment, when your doctor explains that to you that your immune system is weakened, or when you have a family member that belongs to a group of individuals that could be at higher risk for a foodborne infection. So that's when you want to be more cautious with everything we've been talking about. And also trust that when you take the right precautions, you're going to be safe. And I think that's important nowadays because there's so much anxiety with everything that's going on that we want to be able to also be okay and feel safe with what we're doing. So once you follow the right precautions, you're okay at feeling safe that you're not likely to get a foodborne infection. So that's one thing because I think peace of mind is important. That's why I'm telling you guys that today. And have your information, get your information from credible sites such as the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, the American Institute for Cancer Research, breastcancer.org. There's different sites out there that give really good information with regards to food safety, especially when you're going through treatment. So thank you very much for watching this presentation today. Here, the final part of this presentation, I want to show you guys here the resources where I got my information and where you can go and look for more information. So foodsafety.gov, breastcancer.org, FDA, the canceradvocacy.org website, cancer.net, and the stanfordhealthcare.org website too. So you guys can have access to this. You can reach out to us. Leave us a message on the chat box if you want more information or if you have any questions that I can get back to you about. Okay, thank you so much once again. You guys have a wonderful day. And